Here's another look at today's launch of Blue Origin's rocket with founder Jeff Bezos and 3 others aboard. Their voyage lasted just over 10 minutes and hit an altitude of about 106 kilometers, higher than Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic flight last week. A lot of money, a lot of energy, and some say a lot of ego. But is there a larger point, a greater good? And to discuss that, joining us now, Renee Logic, a professor of astrophysics at the University of Toronto, and Tim Fernholz, a senior reporter at Quartz and author of Rocket Billionaires, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the new space race. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Tim, I'll begin with you because you had a front row seat this morning to the launch. What was that like?
It was quite a show, worth getting up at 2 a.m. for. Interesting to see the world's richest man hurl himself to the edge of space in a vehicle that he funded. It's an interesting technological concept. They tried out a business model for luxury tourism that could be a big deal going forward, and indulged in a lot of aerospace nostalgia and inspiration, whatever else you took from the 4 passengers on the New Shepard this morning. I think everybody enjoyed seeing Wally Funk, the 82-year-old American aviator, fly to space and become the oldest person to do that at 82. So that was pretty neat.
So, Renee, like the rest of us, presumably what you saw of this, you saw on your TV or your computer screen. And so the glitter aside, is there a scientific upside, do you think, to these missions?
So I think, that's a really good question. We know we are interested in exploring space. My concern is that really, to understand space, we can do so with robots. We actually don't need people in space. And my worry is that our desire to go in space is really to put humans into space and potentially to build a lunar base or a Martian base. And I think that we're being sold a narrative that I don't necessarily think is so scientifically relevant.
You know, Tim, I put out a tweet earlier today asking people how they felt about this, and there was a lot of negative reaction, not just because people are going on this mission, but billionaires. How should we feel about this being a plaything for the rich?
I think it's a little overblown, frankly. I think what Jeff Bezos is doing is interesting in some ways, but it's something of a sideshow compared to what's actually going on with NASA, with companies like SpaceX that are flying to orbit, and with new satellite startups around the world when it comes to space exploration. For science, I will say when it comes to people, a lot of NASA scientists, a lot of university researchers are excited to fly experimental payloads on the New Shepard or on Virgin Galactic's rocket plane because it's somewhat cheaper than sending them to the International Space Station, and it's an easier way to get scientific payloads into microgravity quicker. But I think that, Renee makes a very good point that a lot of what is exciting about space exploration now is robotic, is utilizing new technology, miniaturization that allows more powerful computers to go into space. And it's important not to let sort of ideologies of what we expect from space exploration get in the way of the results that we need.
Renee, I'm curious. I mean, it sounds to me like Tim is pretty excited about what happened today, especially getting to see it firsthand. Was any of what happened today exciting to you, Renee?
So I felt my emotions were a little bit tempered today because I kind of felt like, these billionaires need to read the room. I think this has been a really tough 18 months for many people. And if you look at some of the, factory workers that are in these Amazon factories that have had a really tough time, my sense is that, billionaires spending additional money that they're getting from not being taxed on space missions kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I think that's what people are responding to today.
And I do want to talk about the carbon footprint. It was kind of hard to get precise data on this, but Renee, you helped us come up with a comparison that one rocket launch burns per passenger about 100 times as much fuel than a long-haul plane ride. So how do you feel about, Renee, that equation?
Yeah, so that's definitely worrying. And also what to consider is that the type of fuel that's being burned is also very different. So a lot of the space shuttle launches that are launched by NASA, for example, are burning hydrogen fuel, which is it's sort of a zero emission fuel, as opposed to the fuels that are being burned by SpaceX and in today's mission, which, are adding pollutants to the air. So
I do have to interrupt here. The New Shepard uses a hydrogen and liquid oxygen fuel, so it doesn't burn kerosene and produce carbon emissions like the SpaceX rockets that you mentioned.
Right. So my point is that it's setting a trend that, if fair enough, the New Shepard is trying to be more zero emissions. But I feel like if we just leave a lot of this into the hands of billionaires, eventually it's going to be a cost-cutting endeavor. And therefore, we won't actually be paying as much attention to the environment as we should be.
And Tim, did you want to say more about the carbon part of this?
Well, I would just say that the vast majority of orbital rockets being launched today are being launched at the behest of the government by scientific agencies. So when NASA is launching, satellites that track climate, track carbon emissions, track the impact of climate change, that's going to go up on a rocket that contributes to that. I think most climate scientists would say that major human transportation systems, cars, airliners, as you mentioned, container ships at sea are a bigger problem in terms of that level of emissions. But I think we do have to be wise going to the future and avoid the unanticipated consequences, because what is undeniably true is we are launching more rockets now than we have in recent years, and that number is only going to go up. And so starting to think about what needs to be done to mitigate the effects of those emissions makes a lot of sense.
We have just 30 seconds left. Renee, perhaps last question to you. I know it happened only hours ago, but how do you think history will remember this day?
I think history will remember this day as the beginning of more aggressive competition between billionaires to dominate the sky, which is something I'm not particularly excited about.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, it's really nice hearing each of your perspectives. Renee and Tim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely to be.